Take a look at this chart right here. 77% of U.S. households can't afford the median priced home. This is according to the National Association of Home Builders. And while it's true, 65.7% of Americans do own their own home, that leaves the rest of us out here trying to search for a house that's affordable to purchase. I got in a little tiff with a family member talking about home affordability, and they seem to think that it's because people are not saving enough and that they're spending too much on frivolous things. I'm going to be showing them exactly why homes are so unaffordable today. And if we continue down this road of how incredibly expensive homes have gotten, I have a warning story for you too, and it's right here in the United States. The National Home Builders Association realizes this is a problem, and they've made a 10-point plan, so we're going to be talking about that too. But the main reason I create this video is just basically to show that I'm right and homes are unaffordable. But at the end of the video, if you feel like my family member is correct and homes are affordable, that people just need to stop eating avocado toast, you let me know. But let's get into it. That chart you saw at the beginning is from the National Association of Home Builders. And they even said the minimum income required to purchase a $150,000 home with a mortgage rate at 6.5% is about $45,975. At the base of the graph are 40.5 million U.S. households with insufficient incomes that are below $45,975 to be able to afford a $150,000 home. And I don't know where you're at in the United States, and I'm in an area that has pretty affordable housing. You can't find many houses in Louisiana that are under $150,000. I mean, it's a scrape. It's really hard to find houses that are that inexpensive. The national median home price of new single-family homes is $495,750. The median price home in the United States is nearly $500,000. If we put it in the big word terms, that's nearly $500,000. How many people have nearly $500,000? I don't have it laying around to buy a house, that's for sure. A total of 134.9 million households, roughly 77% of U.S. households cannot afford the median price home, especially when you add the mortgage rate of 6.5%. Even though mortgage rates have been coming down a little bit, it's still not going to make it affordable. And let's be realistic. Even if the interest rate came down to, let's just say, 4%, how many people could actually qualify for a home that's nearly $500,000? Not many. They don't have the incomes to qualify for that. Now, let me get to my second point. If they just worked harder and got a second job, then they wouldn't have this issue. All right, let's just get into just some basic incomes and we'll have a little chat, little discussion. All right, let's play this game. You are a young couple. You have just gotten married. Your wife is a school teacher and you happen to be a police officer. You guys have pretty good careers. You have benefits. You're off a 401k. You have health insurance and vacations. Well, let's look at your salaries and see how much of a home you can afford. So the average police officer starting out, we're just going to say makes about $57,000 a year. And the average school teacher, well, that depends on where you live, but we're going to take it on the average. And it's saying, you know, between $40,000 and $83,000 a year. So let's just be kind and we'll say $63,000. We're thinking, hey, that's some pretty good money. All right, we're going to just use our example of $495,000 for a brand new house. Our young couple hasn't saved enough, so they have $20,000 to put down. Their credit is pretty good, but it still leaves them with a 7.275 interest rate. For the property taxes yearly, it's $6,188. Home insurance is on the low end here of $1,733. And if you know anything about insurance right now, it is sky high. And don't forget those HOA dues on top of it. And that leaves their total payment at $4,300. If they were to get this loan, that's literally nearly half their income. And that's all they're building for new homes right now, are the really expensive ones. How many areas actually have a house that you could find for that amount of money? In your major cities, you can just forget about it. And you're like, well, just drive. Well, that's going to put more wear and tear on your car. Everybody knows how inflation's affected food, gas prices, insurance on your car, wear and tear on your car. They've got good jobs. They can't live in the area that they work. And this is happening all over the United States. But let me show you this article that tells you exactly how much salary you need here in the United States in order to be able to afford a home. This is by 50 U.S. cities. Look at this chart. And this is when they say that the median home price was $389,400. So in Seattle, Washington, you're going to need $191,000 a year just to be able to afford the median price home. Let's look at this one. Memphis, Tennessee isn't so bad. You only need $71,900. So our working little couple could afford a house there, but I don't know how true that is. This would be for a house that's just under $400,000. Orlando, Florida, you need $106,000. That means their budget would be tight to live there. I used to live in Orlando. I don't know if you know that. Miami, Florida, you need $159,000. Austin, Texas, you need $135,000 a year in order to live there, just to buy the median price home. Of course, California, look, San Diego, you need $241,800. Providence, Rhode Island, you need $129,600. New York, you need $186,100. And Boston, Massachusetts is actually higher, which you would need $186,100. But for this chart, it was saying for a $389,400, not the nearly $500,000 house. You would even need more income. And a lot of people just don't have those kinds of jobs that have that kind of income coming in. So that was just one example. But let me talk about the National Home Builders Association, what our biggest problem is and what will continue to be a problem if we don't start building enough homes. Let's go back to that article. This is the National Home Builders 10-point plan for affordability, and because they realize their affordability crisis because more and more people can't afford the homes that they're building because they have a problem. The cost to build a house today is not just necessarily the building materials. It has a lot to do with the red tape and the bureaucracy before even a house gets scraped. Land development and the approval it takes to get that land ready for houses is super expensive. So a lot of the cost of building a house isn't just the house. It has a lot to do with the land. And of course, labor. We've gotten into that many times in a video. So this is their 10-point plan. With policymakers at levels of government looking for ways to provide affordable homeownership and rental opportunities for Americans, the NAHB is offering a plan that outlines initiatives that can be taken at a local, state, and federal levels to address the root problem. They implement increasing the nation's housing supply. Eliminate excessive regulations. That's what I just said, red tape. Promotes careers in skilled trades. We do need to promote more careers in skilled trades, but show them the money and then the kids will want to do it. Fix building material and supply chains that ease the costs. I mean, that's great to say that, but I don't know how they propose to do that. Pass tax legislation to expand the production of affordable and attainable housing. I would say on that one, they need to do tax incentives in order for builders to want to do it. You're going to have to give them some kind of incentive to want to do it. Just by expanding production isn't gonna cut it. You got to show them the money to make them want to do it because it's expensive. Overturn inefficient local zoning rules. Well, that's easier said than done. We got a lot of not in my backyards. Alleviate permitting roadblocks. That's the biggest problem that every home builder has is the permitting office. That is the biggest issue they have. I just spoke to somebody at a modular home company, and there's so much red tape with that. Number 7 is adopt reasonable, cost-effective building codes. Ooh. All right, I just want to discuss this one with you. Sometimes when they want to alleviate cost-cutting building codes, it might go against some of the things that like we as a public want. They don't want to do it because it costs them time and more money, benefits us as the consumer. So when they say reasonable, what's their definition of reasonable? That's what I want to know. All right, number 8 is reduce local impact fees and upfront taxes associated with housing construction. I'm game for that. Make it easier for developers to finance new housing. I still think that they have to go through some good credit checks. But if the government had better loans for home builders that were approved, that had the right credit history with their company and experience, I'm not totally against that. And so number 10 is update employment policies to promote flexibility and opportunity. I'm game for that too. All these things are, like little bullet points. They need to be, gone over with a better fine-tooth comb, but all these things take time. That's why it's getting harder and harder and harder to build more affordable housing. And that's the other thing. Whenever you say the word affordable housing to some people, they have an image in their brain of, like these terrible, buildings put together and, there's certain kinds of riffraff around affordable housing. And I'll show you the perfect example of that. And that is not in New York, not in California, not even in Florida or Texas. It's in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, of all places. Jackson Hole, Wyoming really should be a lesson to what's really going on. It is an explosion of home prices to the point where local people can't afford to live there anymore. So if you wanted to work that regular job as a school teacher or a police officer, there's no way you can afford a home in Jackson, Wyoming. According to Realtor.com, the median list prices rose in Jackson from less than 1.1 million in January of 2022 to 2.9 million in September of 2022. That's a 165% increase in 2.5 years. And it says, since in Jackson, even a high middle class income won't get you someone into a free market housing, the county has to be willing to open that door by using every ounce of leverage during the negotiation processes. Well, I'm going to tell you what's been going on there. Because every time the affordable housing issue comes up in that area, of course, people with a lot more money have to say something against it, whether it's obstructing their view or they think it's going to bring down their property level. There's always some roadblock that stops affordable housing in that area. More and more people are being squeezed out. And on top of it all, even if you've lived in that area forever, of course, property taxes have gone up. So some people have taken some of their older homes and then turned them into short-term rentals. Those short-term rentals would have been something that normally would have gone to somebody that was going to have a long lease, and they would have only gotten about $3,000 a month. But if you have a short-term rental in those older homes, they found out they pretty much have a cash cow because they can earn over $10,000 a month, and nothing has stopped it. And it's become a bigger problem. Some people living in the area have resorted to living with family members for an extended period of time. Others have found a rental and then have as many roommates as they can possibly have in the house. Not legally, by the way, but anything to be able to survive in that area. That divide, as significant as it is, should be a warning to all of us. As home prices continue to go up in many, many areas, we're going to have a lot more haves and have-nots. Whether you believe that the housing market is going to have a correction or a crash or not, the way things are looking today, those home prices haven't come down yet. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't address these problems in the future. We're just going to keep kicking them down the road. Even in my own area, whenever the words of affordable housing come up in any kind of meetings, people always vote them down because they feel like that brings down their property level. But you can't get ticked off that you can't find workers in your area if you have no place for them to live. And if your real estate prices become so incredibly high that police and firefighters and school teachers can't come to that area, you got a bigger problem on your hands. Just think about it. Just think about it. I had no idea, by the way, that any place in Wyoming was that popular. I learned something from doing this video. You know, short-term rentals are not the only thing that's a problem. Just regular rentals are a problem too. And my family member was like, well, I see all sorts of programs out there for people where they can rent to own. And I'm like, okay. And let me just show you why rent to own doesn't necessarily mean you're going to actually get a home after you finish renting it. So let me show you this article real quick. So this article is from Business Insider. It says private equity sold their dream of home ownership and then they got evicted instead. Home Partners entices Americans locked out of traditional mortgages with rent-to-own deals. But insider analysis of 3 major markets found out eviction filings were more common than sales. So this woman, Erica Denson, it just took a weekend of house hunting to find a house, a stately 4-bedroom, 30 miles southeast of Atlanta, with built-in bar, basement, and where they could picture they're hosting their family and friends. It was listed for $275,000, which was in their price range. But there was a catch. The couple wouldn't be buying. Instead, the Chicago-based company called Home Partners of America would be making a cash offer and rent the house back to them with the option of them to buy it in 5 years. Home Partners supplied them with a lengthy agreement detailing terms, including built-in annual increases to their rent that eventually went to the purchase price. The document was more than 50 pages long. Denson said that the company gave them 24 hours to review it and sign it, but the opportunity seemed too good to pass up. We all know whenever it's too good, you got to read. The deal quickly turned sour. The company locked her out of the online payment portal after she missed one single month's rent, and then added hefty fees that made it impossible to catch up. After she missed the second month, the company swiftly filed for eviction. And this portal problem with paying online isn't unique to her situation. And yes, she missed one payment, but all that money that she had put and accrued off to the side for the purchase price of that house is now completely gone. I know many of you in the comment section are going to say, well, it's her fault. She didn't make the payment on time. I don't know how many times I've missed something on my counter. We all fall behind or have a moment where we miss a payment, but to lock her out of that portal for missing one payment and then attaching so many fines, I don't know. I think that's pretty shady. She should have looked at that contract a little bit better. Yeah, and as you know, I'm not a big fan of private equity. In this article, Business Insider says Home Partners, which was launched in 2012, now owns more than 28,000 homes nationwide, is the largest of a handful of new companies promising a clear path to home ownership for families that are not ready to buy. Can I also just point out the fact that a lot of these private equity firms have been using algorithms to boost rent costs? They've been busted, stone cold busted, and they're being investigated. They basically have price fixed rents in the area, and they will continue to go up. But back to this article. Rent to own is now attracting some of the biggest players from Wall Street and Silicon Valley. You know darn well, if you've been watching this channel for a hot minute. If big investors in Wall Street has got their little sticky hands in there, it's because they know they have ways to add more money into their pockets. They can use these contracts with more predatory practices against people so they can just churn and burn as many people as they want, and they can increase the rent as much as they want because of the way that these contracts are designed. Take a look at this map. It says the rise to rent to own. A decade after launching, Home Partners now owns 28,000 homes in more than 40 cities. Just be very careful if you're going to do a rent to own kind of situation. Make sure that you always make those payments on time. It may not be the best situation for you, even though, like she said, it sounded too good to be true. Most likely it's going to be. And that's just another way that people are getting screwed out of getting homes. And that's why we keep having this problem bigger and bigger. And rent to own may sound super appealing, but in a lot of cases, I can tell you, most rent to owns, the people never, ever, ever actually own the house afterwards. It's very rare. I've been doing this now for, I think, 17 years. And I can tell you every time that I've ever seen rent to own, the people never end up owning the home at the end. What has me curious is the amount of home construction that is happening in the United States. I'm seeing more and more new neighborhoods pop up and you think, oh, wow, these are fantastic houses for first-time home buyers. And then you go and you look and they're actually just rentals. How is it that they are able to cut through the red tape even faster? How are these private equity firms able to get those permits quicker than everybody else? I'm not saying it's conspiracy. I'm just saying it seems very suspicious that they are able to build these neighborhoods, build them fast, and get them up for rentals instead of for sale. I understand why the home builders do it, because they can sell a bunch of houses at one time. But why is the red tape so much easier for them? Something to think about. I don't know if you've seen it or not in your area, but in a lot of areas, the more and more affordable neighborhoods are not for purchase, they're for rent. All that's going to do is turn more and more younger people into renters for life. And you know as well as I do, if you own a home, the best way to have wealth building is through real estate. That's why all the millionaires invest in real estate. But if you become a renter for life, you have no safety net whatsoever. And a lot of people use their whole equity in their house to fund their retirement. Think how many people won't be able to retire in the future if we continue down this path. So, unnamed family member, I hope this video has enlightened you a little bit on why people can't afford a house today. And you in the comment section, I want you to tell my undisclosed family member if you think homes are entirely too expensive, or do you agree with them? And do you think it's because, you know, they're just eating too much avocado toast, or they made bad career choices? I want to know your opinion, because that way they can feel justified and they don't feel like I swayed it against them. Let me know in the comment section below. And if you're not convinced in this video that homes are entirely too unaffordable, go ahead and watch these videos right here. My name is Kristina Smallhorn, your real estate whisperer, and I tell you all this because good real estate information matters, and homes are too unaffordable. I'm sorry.